Hey everybody, Brody here again. Few things I wanted to talk about real quick. AE5 has been filmed. It's in the past week. Sorry, I can't remember the day. I've been pretty busy, as you guys have probably noticed due to the lack of posts, and I apologize for that. I've spent past couple days on the road, and I'm in my hotel room right now. Been trying to balance work and my summer class, and trying to get it figured out. But I think I'm just about there, and hopefully I'll be able to hop back on it here pretty soon. So let's get right into it. So we made a couple posts about Sudan and the Rapid Support Services, which is a militia that falls under control of the government, right? I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory, right? In theory, they're a rapid reaction force, right? But it's a militia. So we talked about those guys going into refugee camps, and not refugee camps, I'm sorry, protester camps, and killing people, unarmed protesters who are protesting the transitional military council that's in charge of the country for at least the next 2 years, according to them, until they set up free elections. So obviously the opposition wants civilian control of the government as soon as possible. But the RSF is going out and killing people. I've seen reports within the past couple days of them moving deeper into the capital, and I mean, doing the the worst things that you could imagine. Killing protesters, raping people, and torturing people, and dumping them in lakes or whatever, and the list goes on. I mean, that's only a fraction of what's been reporting, and I tend to believe those reports. Looking at the way that the government handled those reports, and also looking at the history of Sudan, at least since I've been alive, and hell, maybe even before that, it's not terribly surprising, as horrible as that is to say, but it needs to be talked about. Something needs to be done about it. I saw a few minutes ago that on Wednesday, again, sorry for not being so up to date, the military and the opposition, the military announced that they were going to start talks with the opposition again, and I don't know how that's going to play out, but I don't know if that's going to stop the killing either, and I'm willing to bet that it won't, but God, be on the lookout for that. Second thing I wanted to talk about. So, Jon Stewart, right, guys, a comedian. He did the Daily Show, I think, before Trevor Noah took it over, and political commentator. And he apparently is I can't remember what his title is, a sponsor or something like that, but basically he works with 9/11 first responders, these guys that are going through all these terrible cancers and sicknesses, and many of them don't have too terribly long left. From what I understand, his one of his very good friends was a New York City firefighter that died in the 9/11 attacks. So this is obviously something that means a lot to him. And he testified in front of Congress. Him testifying in the room behind him is full of these guys, right, that are part of this organization, these 9/11 first responders. And God, again, many of them don't have too long left. One of the guys, and I can't remember his name, but he testified with John, and he's getting ready to do his 64th round of chemo. 64. God, and he was testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee because there's a bill that provides funding for the healthcare and treatments and stuff like that for these 9/11 first responders, right? Because again, I mean, this guy's going through a 64th round of chemo. I mean, you can't pay for that on your own unless you're. I mean, God, I don't know how much chemo costs, but I mean, I'm imagine 64 rounds. It's got to be a lot. They're testifying because this bill, last time this bill got put up to be signed again, right, authorized the funds, was 5 years ago. And it sounded like it was a pain in the ass back then to get it signed. And, got authorized funding for 5 years. Well, here they are 5 years later. And it's a pain in the ass again to get it signed. All the congressmen in the House Judiciary Committee and the subcommittees that were supposed to be there, 6 showed up. 6. All these congressmen that said they were going to be there. And John talks about this a lot. All these congressmen that, tweet out, never forget the heroes of 9/11 and, we could never repay our debt to them. Here they are. You could start by helping me pay for my chemo, before I die. But majority of these guys were nowhere to be found, and John gives this testimony. It's very emotional and it's great. It's short. I suggest every single person watch it. There are different clips, so it's anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes long, but every single person watch that, especially if you're an American, and especially if you were alive during 9/11. And God, I was only 5, and I live in California, so obviously not the most affected person, but even I remember where I was when 9/11 happened, but yeah, if you're an American, definitely watch that, definitely, 100%, and I think everyone should watch it. Great testimony, fantastic. Last thing I wanted to talk about was these tensions with Iran that have been going on within the past week or so. You've either seen it on the news or you've seen it through memes or whatever. I know our generation, myself included. So a few days ago, a Norwegian and a Japanese commercial oil tanker were attacked in the Persian Gulf. From what it sounds like, it was off the coast of Yemen, thereabouts. But yeah, they were attacked. It sounds like everyone in the crew was able to get off the ship, but yeah, they jumped ship, and the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, Israel, and all that, they blamed Iran, right? Makes sense. Whether it was them or the Houthis that they train and supply. The U.S. said that the ships were hit by mines, but the captain of the Japanese tanker actually said that they were hit by artillery rounds. So I don't know. I'm more inclined to believe him because he was there, but regardless, so the U.S. came out and said that they said this today, that a day before those tankers were hit, Iran launched a surface air missile against a RQ-9 Reaper drone, right? I mean, the Reaper drone is what you think of when you think drone. You probably Modern Warfare or whatever, that is the drone, the Reaper. Whatever, they launched a surface area missile against one, missed, but they hit and shot down another one same day. And then the next day this thing happens with the oil tankers, right? So, of course, tensions are going up. And do I think it'll lead to war? Again, probably not, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, various tensions with Iran. Why do I say that? I don't think Iran is that stupid. It would be incredibly stupid to want to go to war with us. I'm not saying it would be easy, but they would lose, hands down. I don't think conventional wars are dead, because I don't think conventional war will ever be dead as long as there are human beings. Conventional war will be a thing. But it's definitely not as prevalent as it was in the 20th century. The prevalence has really died down since World War II. Right? You got, Korea and Vietnam, and a few more big conventional wars after that, but not a whole lot in the 21st century. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. We could go to war tomorrow, and that's the thing with geopolitics and stuff in that realm. You just never know. Everything changes on the drop of a dime. That being said, one of my buddies, Noah, posted this, and it's a quote from Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein said this in 1949. Tensions with the Soviet Union and the U.S. are heating up, and the Chinese Civil War ends in the communist favor, right? So I mean, that's just more powder to add to the keg. But Albert Einstein says this quote. He says, "I do not know with which weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." Why did he say this? And I love this quote. I've seen it before, forgot about it until I saw my buddy post it, but great quote. And why did he say this? Albert Einstein was born in the late 1800s in Germany. Him and his family immigrated to Switzerland before the start of the First World War. I want to say April 1914, thereabouts. So I mean, barely missed it, right? And even though Switzerland obviously did not see fighting in either world wars, they were surrounded by it in both of them. So they were, I guess you could say, a spectator to both of these wars. So Einstein sees millions of men drop in the First World War, and before the end of the First World War, in 1918, Spanish flu breaks out and kills even more people than the First World War all over the world. Millions upon millions of people dead. Just after the First World War. I mean, the world doesn't catch a break, And then the Second World War breaks out 21 years after the first one ends, and that one's even more destructive than the First World War as well. So Albert Einstein, by 1949, he sees just hundreds of millions of people dead. And he's thinking about that. He says this quote, and what he means by saying this quote is that World War III will be so destructive to humanity. I mean, forget about World War I, World War II, probably even the Spanish flu. It will be so devastating. that when the Fourth World War happens, it'll basically be barbarians meeting on the battlefield, because humanity will have devolved so much just from slaughtering each other and bombing each other. Yeah, and remember, this is the man that this is one of the men that when he immigrated to the U.S., he warned U.S. officials. He could have spoken directly to Roosevelt. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he warned the U.S. about Germany's intentions to make the nuclear bomb, and that's one of the things that really kickstarted the Manhattan Project. You know, so this man, and even though he wasn't a soldier or, you know, a warrior, you know, he wasn't watching his friends die, and he recognized just the enormous amount of death and suffering that humanity had inflicted upon itself within the span of, God, I mean, what, 31, 32 years? And he saw that potential for it again in 1949, and I think he had good reason to. Thank God that World War III hasn't happened yet. But obviously this was posted in relation to what's going on in Iran. And then again, do I think it'll lead to war? No. But when I saw that quote, it got me thinking, and that's an amazing quote. It really, again, it makes you think. It definitely makes you think. So that's about all I wanted to share with you guys tonight. Thanks for listening. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast on YouTube, subscribe. Link is in our bio. If you haven't followed us here on Instagram, follow us. Like our stuff. Share it with you know, whoever you think is interested in this kind of stuff. Friends, family, your neighbors, whatever. We appreciate all the support you guys have given us thus far. And again, sorry for being behind. I'll get back on it here pretty soon. But yeah, that's all I wanted to leave you guys with tonight. So again, thank you for listening, and see you around.